All right, I ain't gonna start the review like that, I promise. What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA, and this is my review of The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. It is a film directed by Tom Gormican, stars Nick Cage, Pedro Pascal, Ike Barinholtz, Sharon Horgan, and Tiffany Haddish. All right, what did I think about this film? Fun. Ton of fun, lots of laughs. This is this feels like out of a throwback action buddy comedy. Reminded me a lot of the old Midnight Run film. I don't know if you saw that, but just with more escapism to it. You know, a lot of fun. Two guys out on an adventure. It's just kind of like a crime caper going on. And I mean, I absolutely had a blast in the theaters, and a lot of people that I sat next to did as well. So Nick Cage is playing Nick Cage, right? Okay, so he's kind of like no longer the actor he was, and this is an exaggerated version of Nick Cage. Like, I'm pretty sure Nick Cage isn't like this in real life. Of course, this is still a film, so you know, you go into this thinking like, all right, we're gonna see this exaggerated version of Nick Cage playing himself. His life is in shambles in a way. He's not getting roles, he's not getting the acting gigs. His, you know, family life is kind of falling apart, and he's trying to figure out what to do, and he gets invited to go to this birthday party for this guy. He's gonna get $1 million for it, and he says, all right, well, that'll be a good way to kind of knock off some of my debt, and then I'm retired, you know. So that's kind of where this story starts. Nick Cage playing himself, this like I said, this exaggerated, like overblown version of himself. It is absolutely hilarious. It's like all of the things you think Nick Cage is based on like the shows and the movies and the performances that he's done. Like everything you think Nick Cage might be is who's in this. And again, I'm pretty sure Nick Cage is just a regular guy like the rest of us, but in this film it's just hilarious watching him try to pull off all of these like tropes about himself, and he does it. It never gets old. It's hilarious the entire time. So yeah, you absolutely enjoy it. Pedro Pascal is of course playing the guy that invites him, the super fan of Nick Cage, Javi, and he's like this kind of possible crime boss that the CIA is keeping their eye on. And then they say, hey, you know, we want you, Nick Cage, to go in there and kind of help us with this. You get all of that from the trailers, of course. I'm not really spoiling anything, but yeah, this guy is great. Like Pedro Pascal's character is just, he's fun, you know. He like literally worships the ground that Nick Cage walks on. So you're like watching somebody who you would deem as a super fan of a particular, it doesn't matter who it is, just a super fan, and you know how a star would react to that fan and all of that fan worship. And he's kind of forced to do that because, hey, you're my guest, you know, I invited you here, you took the money, and so now you're gonna sit here and, you know, watch me gush over you for the next couple of days. But what ends up happening is pretty cool. Like this little bromance starts to develop between the two, right? Like they're each, it's interesting, like each of these guys is what the other guy needs, right? Like obviously, you know, Javi, played by Pedro Pascal, he needs like a Nick Cage because he's a big fan and he loves his work, and you know, like I said, this guy literally worships him. And then at the same time, Nick needed a day or a week away from all of his problems just to kind of remind himself of who he was and just have a fan kind of gushing over him. It's a little uncomfortable at first, but then as the two men get to know each other, it just becomes a whole lot of fun. That's when the comedy really takes off, you know, all the way. And then of course when the CIA starts getting involved and starts pressing Nick to do more and more and more dangerous things to try to get the goods on this guy, I mean, the comedy is just great. It's really funny. There are a couple of really good laugh out loud moments in this, and they really come from like this little alter ego of Nick Cage. He calls him Nicky, and he really makes you laugh. Like this guy is just like, again, the version of Nick Cage that Nick Cage kind of keeps bottled up inside, but every once in a while he comes out and he starts talking to him and they're having conversations, and it's hilarious stuff, really fun. Lots of Nick Cage movie references. Most of them are just played out for laughs, and of course, you know, like I said, it's escapism. It's just fun, good humor, not a lot of like bust out gut laughing, but just some good little like, okay, yeah, I like that. That's what this movie is pretty much throughout. It's just coasting through with mostly good, fun moments, good humor, a lot of escapism. But I will say the negative in this film is really the third act. Like, as long as it's staying there, the movie is fine. It works great. When you get to the third act and like all the crime stuff starts to get resolved, it just becomes boilerplate. It's just like, all right, this is just standard. We've seen this, again and again, and it's nothing new. I kind of wish that, the writer director, because Tom Gormican wrote and directed this, I kind of wish he did something different or something unique. But yeah, it just kind of goes into standard fare, but it doesn't, it still works, but it's just kind of like, man, okay, that's how they chose to end it. Not too bad. And I think for the most part, like, this film is getting great reviews, and I think it would have gotten even better reviews had they changed that third act up a little bit and didn't just go so kind of standard boilerplate. Here you go, you guys know what's going to happen next, and you can kind of predict the rest of the movie out from there. All right, but let's go ahead and check out the scoreboard and let's run through the numbers and see what we got. All right, so here we go with the scoreboard. By the way, music changed up a little bit. I'm thinking about using this for reviews and using the other music for, my other stuff. So what do you think? Give me your comments on the music choice. Do you like this song or not? Go ahead, let me know in the comments. But let's get to the actual review. All right, first up, direction. So Tom Gormican, I've never seen anything of his before. I think this is maybe like his third or fourth film. This is the first movie that I've seen. Solid directing job. He really understood his story world and he fleshed it out well. I mean, the thing about it is that this film is a fictionalized version of Nick Cage, right? And so of course you're going to need to take it somewhat serious a little bit, but Tom Gormican understands that this is farce, this is fun, this is not serious. And then the action scenes probably are displaying that, because a lot of the action that happens is like, all right, man, like they probably would have wiped these guys out or whatever if this was really going on. So for the most part, he understands, hey, we got a buddy action comedy for the most part, he understands, all right, we got a buddy action comedy spy caper type film. We're just going to enjoy it for what it is, not get too serious, keep this thing. I mean, obviously, just based on the premise, you're going to have that kind of a story. So yeah, it's action scenes, kind of the weak spots in this film, are the weak spots. A little timid in places, didn't really want to go too far with it, but overall still not a total loss. Any of the action, I thought that this film did a great job kind of balancing comedy with some fun ideas and action, and yeah, it did a really good job. I'm gonna give the direction a 7.5. all right, next up, script and story. So again, it's a bromance, so it's really important to show how these two particular characters can kind of unite and find friendship, and they did. They did a really good job. Like, the friendship that you see developing based on the circumstances going on with both of these men is believable, right? You believe that, yeah, Nick Cage is going through stuff and he kind of needed this little weekend away with this super fan to kind of get his juices back going, and then the super fan, of course, has his own desires, because the overall, like, the kind of the subplot is that he's writing a film and he wants Nick Cage to be in the film, but then Nick Cage says, hey, why don't we write a film together? And that changes their dynamic in an extraordinary way as well. So then you really see the two men bonding over writing a film together, and it becomes a lot of fun. Third act, like I said before, it's kind of generic. You get a car chase and a standard kind of action setup that you've seen 1,000 times before, and again, that's kind of the weakness of the script. But the strength of the script, especially in that second act, after Nick Cage lands on this compound and he's around this beautiful scenery with having a good time and being taken care of, and then you start to see the two men starting to bond together as friends. That stuff is fantastic. It's hilarious, it's fun. Like I said, great escapism. I think the script did an excellent job portraying all of that. I'm gonna give this a 7.5 as well. All right, acting. So all the actors are good to great. Some are given very little to do, some are given like nothing at all to do, barely anything, but they all show up and they act pretty well. Obviously based on the story, this is a Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal film. This is about those guys, right? So the other actors just kind of have to show up and not mess anything up and do a good job. I was actually pleased with Tiffany Haddish's performance. She didn't kind of overbearingly get in the way of the film. You know, you think like a comedian, they're gonna come in there and it's gonna be lots of jokes. No. The jokes are left for Nick and Pedro. She kind of plays it straight, and I think she does a really good job. Would love to see Tiffany Haddish do more roles like this, where, yeah, there's a little bit of comedy, don't get me wrong, but she more or less just kind of just plays it straight. And it's like, hey, good. It's always good to see when comedians come and can just play it straight and not try to ham it up so much, because, you know, that gives me faith in their acting abilities. Like, okay, they can really act. They're not just kind of punchlines, you know, waiting to happen. So I thought she did a good job. And just pretty much everybody else overall, pretty solid acting work on that. Great chemistry between everybody on the cast. Lots of fun, very funny. And the thing about Pedro and Nick is you really get lost in their friendship. Like I said, that second act, as they're just building up their friendship, just a fun time. I enjoyed myself, I know. And you're just sitting there just laughing and chuckling. You're just reminded of like kind of like two old buddies that hadn't seen each other in years and years and years. And it's funny, I was thinking this as I was watching the film, that they're really like acting like two friends that maybe went to college together or high school together, and then they bumped into each other, you know, maybe 10-20 years down the line, and they just went on some kind of crazy adventure. And like literally later on in the film, Nick Cage says like exactly that, and I thought that was just just hilarious. But in any case, acting is phenomenal. In this case, I'm gonna give that an 8. All right, and then finally we get to sights and sounds. So it takes place in, I think, Mallorca, Spain. And I mean, man, this place looks beautiful. It made me say, man, I gotta go to Mallorca, Spain. This place looks phenomenal. What's up on Expedia? You got any tickets? You know, because this place looked beautiful. Beautiful vistas. You know, when they're walking along streets or when they're hanging out at a cafe or something like that, everything looks, you know, rustic and you know, historic and beautiful. I love where they set this film. It looks very nice. The film looks great, or at least the scenery and the backdrops look great. There's a lot of energetic camera work, you know, as Nick Cage is going and living in this little compound. There's lots of things that they're doing, moving the camera in different angles and, you know, kind of bringing you right up into the action of the film. I thought that was all great. The soundtrack is very, very standard. And it's really forgettable, but that could be a good thing, because, you know, sometimes you just need a solid little soundtrack just to kind of carry you through, kind of give you the right feeling of action. But I started to notice it a little bit, like, all right, this is just kind of like regular soundtrack stuff, you know. So, you know, from the soundtrack, it's good, you know, kind of blends into the background a little bit, doesn't really stand out and, you know, really make itself known, but nevertheless, good enough soundtrack. I'm gonna give it a 7.5. All right, so finally, you can pretty much tell what these scores are going to be if you add it up and do the math. That's going to come to a total score. A total score for the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent comes in at a 7.5. All right, did you see this film? What did you think? Go ahead and drop down in the comments. Give me your thoughts. Let's go ahead and check out where this film is going to rank now with my overall films. I think this is number 17. All right, folks, so there we go. My 2022 movie ratings updated with The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, checking in at number 5. So now we got a new top 5. X still sitting at number 1. The Batman at number 2. Jujutsu Kaisen 0 at number 3. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 at number 4. And then Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. So I still got a couple of movies to watch this weekend. I don't know if that one's going to hang in there, because I'm probably going to go see The Northman either tonight or tomorrow night, and then I'm trying to catch The Bad Guys, and I still want to see Everything Everywhere All at Once. So I'm not sure which of those films I'm going to see, but I'm probably going to see 2 more films this weekend. So we'll see what this list looks like as the numbers start coming in. But anyway, I want to thank you for watching, folks. I really do appreciate all the new subscribers, seeing you guys starting to flow in. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? You keep showing up. I keep seeing my list going up and up of people watching, but nobody's subscribing. Go ahead and drop down, subscribe. That way you get all the videos as they come in. All right, folks, I want to thank you for watching. See you next time.